I think it's pretty safe to say that when we examine the sequel trilogy by Disney and Lucasfilm, a large handful of Star Wars fans around the world have had issues with The Last Jedi, and especially The Rise of Skywalker, based on how Kathleen Kennedy handled the reshoots and the rewrites for Episode 9, and how she also allowed Rian Johnson to take full creative control for The Last Jedi. This is Mike Zero. Make sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel for future Star Wars content. Now, the one thing that we do know about The Rise of Skywalker is that this movie went through a very shaky and tough production. It went through two different phases of reshoots and rewrites, one back in 2018 in November and December, and of course another batch in mid-2019 into the later year of that year. Now, when we think about Kathleen Kennedy, obviously she's very incompetent as the president of Lucasfilm. She doesn't truly understand Star Wars down to the core, in my opinion, and I'm sure a lot of you out there will agree with me on this, is that The Rise of Skywalker had so much more potential, it had so much more to give than, what we would have gotten if J.J. Abrams and Chris Terrio were allowed to do without Kathleen Kennedy interrupting. And that's the thing with Kathleen Kennedy, is that I think that's one of the main reasons as to why the sequel trilogy felt so imbalanced, is that there was a lot of inconsistency because of Kathleen Kennedy with her creative differences of many of the writers and directors on board, on and off. And I think it's also another reason, a good example as to why The Mandalorian is so successful, is because, well, Kathleen Kennedy wasn't really involved on a creative scale for that series on Disney+. Now, with that being said, a lot of fans have been very intrigued about what could have been for Episode 9, where now that both Disney and Lucasfilm are finished with The Rise of Skywalker, they are focused on their new Star Wars trilogy of films, as well as their new Star Wars universe. It's explained that currently both Disney and Lucasfilm have multiple plans in place in order to create a better future for the Star Wars brand in general, and to evolve the Star Wars franchise as we know it. However, many fans around the world have been curious about what could have been for The Rise of Skywalker before the major reshoots that were initiated by Kathleen Kennedy. Now, it's explained that one of the deleted scenes that were partially filmed before it was cut from the movie involved a full-on lightsaber duel between Ben Solo and Rey against a rejuvenated version of Palpatine. It's explained that at one point in time, J.J. Abrams had developed a double-bladed red lightsaber that would be used in the film for the character of Palpatine that would go up against Ben Solo wielding the Skywalker saber, and that Rey would use her new yellow lightsaber in combat against Palpatine. This was said to have been partially shot during, of course, before the first phase of reshoots back in 2018, and that the scene involved a moment in which Palpatine would split the double-bladed red lightsaber into two different halves, using, of course, as two single-bladed lightsabers in combat against Ben Solo and Rey inside of his throne room. Not just that, but also originally the throne room of Palpatine on Exegol was going to include lava around his throne and the walkway that led to it all, that would pay as an homage to Ralph McQuarrie's original concept of Palpatine's throne room for Episode 6, Return of the Jedi. Ian McDiarmid had a stunt double that did some of the work against Adam Driver and Daisy Ridley and their stunt doubles as well. However, the scene was eventually cut by Kathleen Kennedy as she wanted to dial down on lightsaber action and combat in the later half of the movie. So here's the thing about Kathleen Kennedy. Once again, it doesn't really seem like that she knows exactly what Star Wars is. Now, in her mind, it seems like that she was afraid that The Rise of Skywalker would have been too prequel-ish with tons of lightsaber action. Now, mind you, yes, we got a good amount of lightsaber action in The Rise of Skywalker if you compare it to The Last Jedi, which was virtually none. Nothing in there, really. So, to have Palpatine going up against both Rey and Ben Solo, big missed opportunity. I think it would have really created more repeat viewings among many Star Wars fans. Now sure, look it. I understand that Palpatine using the Force Storm technique at the very end of the movie just shows us how powerful he really is through the ways of the Force, and perhaps, maybe that means he doesn't even really need a lightsaber. I can get that debate 100%. But at the same exact time, there's a lot of fans that really grew up with the prequels back in the early 2000s, where they were actually used to Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, where Palpatine actually used a lightsaber against Mace Windu and the Jedi behind him inside of his office on Coruscant, battling against Palpatine and trying to defeat him, and even Palpatine going up against Yoda. It's very iconic by George Lucas. And I think that's one of the main reasons as to why they had a lot of issues with Palpatine not using the saber ultimately in the final cut of Episode 9. Now, the last thing I just want to actually put out there real quick is the design change of Palpatine's throne room. Originally, it was going to have tons of lava around the actual throne and a walkway that led to the throne, paying a nice tribute, or an homage, if you will, like I say, to Ralph McQuarrie's original design of the throne room of Palpatine in Return of the Jedi, which also had lava surrounding it. So you can see that JJ was trying to honor more of Ralph McQuarrie's concepts, and Kathleen Kennedy kind of didn't want that to be in the actual movie. So yeah, guys, like I say, let me know what you think about this entire situation by Kathleen Kennedy deleting these scenes, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, do make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you also very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.